Well, hello there, intrepid viewer. I'm out here just doing a little nature walk, and while I'm clearing my lungs and getting some fresh air, I thought I'd also clear my head a little bit and talk about something that kind of bothered me. Some of you that have seen my channel might have noticed that I did some pretty, not a lot, but a good amount of coverage on Zack Snyder's charity event for suicide prevention. But I haven't done a whole lot of DC stuff since then. I've mostly been focusing on Warhammer, and it's sort of been a death by a thousand cuts over with Superman. And I just kind of wanted to talk about a big event that happened that I think really perfectly encapsulates why I found myself finding more hope in the fans of the grim, dark future of the 41st millennium than the symbol of truth, justice, and the American way. About a day ago, at the time of recording, there was a guy on Twitter who said that he didn't find a lot of hope in a panel, and said that, the implication that someone who's dealing with suicidal thoughts or depression is weak was it wasn't the right way to respond to it. Obviously these things are all written by a writer or two over at DC Comics. Superman isn't real, but it just kind of came off a little scummy. This person's native language isn't even English, so some things could have been lost in translation, but Twitter took no short amount of time creating an angry mob to say, oh, this person's a degenerate, they're a terrible person, they must be advocating for suicide, they must hate this and that, even though this person has a long history of saying that they personally have struggled against depression and suicide and, been pretty vocal with the DC things that are tied into suicide prevention. And it was just, usually on a daily basis, there's a whole bunch of conversations about superheroes, and maybe 10 to 20 of those accounts are saying something gross, and so it looks like a pretty small percentage, and it's hard to pinpoint. And this was just a situation where it was a very large portion of the discourse going around in those circles was a group of people radicalizing other people. If you didn't have a strong opinion about this tweet, if you didn't see it, they made sure you would see it, and they told you, hey, make a conclusion right now with the information I've given you, whether it's accurate or not, whether it's the whole picture or not. And if you don't agree with me, then you must love suicide. And we're going to bully you, and we're going to try and get you off here. And some of them were calling for this person to kill themselves in the name of mental health and Superman. And again, their whole, it sucked the humanity out of you. That's something that I remember. Someone said that being online had sucked the humanity out of this person, and that's why he doesn't like this panel. And all the person did was say that they don't agree with the way that a single page in a single comic was written. And I think you could point to a single page of any superhero's run at some point and find something that every fan would disagree with. They wouldn't all agree on the same panel or the same page being bad, but no one universally likes every page and every panel by every writer about every hero they like. To say so would be hyperbole and dishonest. And the panel in question is one I don't blame people who don't know this, and I wish that I didn't know it. But that panel has been used to insult the Superman movies that came out from 2013 to 2021, whenever the Snyder Cut came out. And it's been used to imply in bad faith that Superman was edgy and would have killed someone who was suicidal, which is really gross, right, and disingenuous. And the person who made the original tweet saying that they don't find hope in it anymore, they belong to that fandom of people who enjoyed those movies. So of course they're not going to find as much luster, even if they didn't mind the way it was written originally. And then you have had people for the last 10 years saying that, and for the last roughly 7, using it to mock the death of Zack Snyder's daughter, Autumn, who died to suicide. Saying that, Zack Snyder probably pushed her to do it with his bad, edgy, hack movies because he's such a fascist. And so his daughter killed herself because she saw it, and here's what she would have done, and they've edited the panel to be her or put it in reference to her. They have used this thing, which is now the lightning rod of do you believe in hope and optimism, as of a day or so ago when this whole stupid thing started. They're using that panel as something important when they've been using it for a decade to insult an actual victim of suicide. And they're now using this as an excuse to attack and bully someone who has made it clear that they struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts, which leads me to believe that they may eventually cause someone to commit suicide because someone didn't like a comic panel. And I think that's just a perfect summation of what Superman fans have devolved into, of you don't feel the way I do about everything that I like, I hate you, and you should kill yourself, and you're not valid, and we're going to dehumanize you, and we're going to undercut your validity, and we're going to slowly erode your feeling of self-worth, and then push you as hard as we can, and we don't care what happens after that, because you didn't match our hypothetical criteria that doesn't make any goddamn sense, because Superman isn't a real fucking person. It's just, these people claim that they like mental health and that they believe in hope and optimism, but they're out here making horrific jokes, lying about things, picking fights with people. And I think for a long time we've seen the writing on the wall with Superman fans of like, oh, if he doesn't have red underpants, he's a bad Superman. Literally surface level, the surface of his costume. Could not be any less relevant. It's just really disheartening. A character that I grew up on and that I genuinely found a lot of hope in, reading Superman All-Star specifically and watching Smallville and the original Tim Daly and George Newbern animated stuff. Even the Fleischer animated stuff, I used to watch it on Boomerang, or it would just come on late at night on a hotel or whatever, And it's someone who has meant a lot to me when I was younger, that as an adult, I'm just having to further and further distance myself from, for so many reasons. And I can't even talk about him or post videos about him without the comment section being full of people saying, oh, Snyder cult, Snyder hack, kill yourself, you're not a real Superman fan. Well, what if I wasn't a real Superman fan? You still think I should die? I think a good litmus test for all these people should be, can you imagine Christopher Reeve's Superman saying these things? Could you imagine his Clark saying these things? And if he wouldn't, maybe you shouldn't say them. And I just think it's a real shame, because someone who is hypothetically supposed to embody the greatest ideals of humanity, people are using the worst possible attributes of, the human condition to defend him. They're advocating for someone to kill themselves in the name of mental health. They're lying about people and bullying people, trying to make people feel worse in the name of hope and optimism. I mean, it feels like some type of bizarro world, right? Like this is like some type of Lex Luthor psyop. And I think before, when it was preferential things, like I think Superman should smile more, or I think he should have this color suit, or he should have handled this situation better. It's all based on personal preference. That's, artistical integrity and choice. But this is real life. This is something that real people are doing to other real human beings in the name of a fictional character that could actually cause people to die or to make really terrible life choices that permanently impact themselves, that could hospitalize them, that could lead to a lot of mental health struggles that cause them a lot of damage in the long run. I just have to say that anyone who's doing that, you are not a Superman fan. You're a junkie that is addicted to escapism, and you call it hope. Because the second you don't get what you want, you attack people. The second someone doesn't agree with you, you dehumanize them. That's not hope. That is cruelty. That is someone who is scared of the world, who is worried and stressed. And in a world like today, I understand it. But what I don't understand is the way that you guys are treating one another. And of all reasons, to do it in the name of Superman. A child's character. One that even adults have a right to enjoy. But by the time you reach adulthood, you should understand your perceived integrity of the character is not more important than another human life. Until you can behave like an adult, until you can treat people with the basic levels of respect and integrity, you don't get to call yourself a Superman fan. You don't get to call yourself anything. You have to work on being a human being first. And it's pretty clear that a lot of you just can't do that. So I hope for a day when this is a distant memory and we laugh at how bad things were and how much better things are now. But given the last decade and the fact that they're handing the keys to the kingdom to someone with more ties to the Epstein Island and sex offenders than most court judges, we're in for a long haul. So just find something that makes you happy. Find a good community of people, and I don't know what the solution is, but whatever they're doing ain't it. Find yourself a good community and barricade yourself from the crazies, because this is just unacceptable on every level. Christopher Reeve would be appalled if he could see what had happened.